What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 36. I'm your host, Shiva Patel, and my co-host here, Nick Rodriguez. Softball are the champions. The Texas Longhorns won the national championship. How does it feel, Nick?
Hey, we're champions, man. That is an awesome feeling. Great series. First time we're national champs. Taking down Texas Tech. So hook 'em. Feels great, baby.
Definitely does. And we're going to be talking about that series because it was a great run for Mike White and the girls. But be sure to follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll go back and watch our previous episodes as we have a lot of interesting topics that we talk about. But first on the docket, let's talk about the national champions. They beat Texas Tech 10-4 in game 3. Talk about what they were able to do really well for them to beat Texas Tech in this series.
Well, it was a battle. I mean, as you know, softball is a 3-game series. You start on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We won a thriller in game 1 due to Reese Atwood hitting an intentional pitch on a 3-0 and knocked into the outfield. Really, at one point, that was her only hit of the series. I can't remember if she got a hit on Friday night, but came through clutch there. We won game 1. Game 2 slipped through our fingers a little bit. Pretty sloppy down the stretch, and they ended up taking the lead, ended up pulling away and winning that game. Texas Tech had this great pitcher, Najee Kennedy, or something in that nature. Unbelievable. First softball player to get $1 million deal, and she threw every pitch, which I think is what finally brought the Red Raiders down. She was tired, she was gassed, and boy, did the Longhorns jump on top of her in a hurry, scoring 5 in the first inning. She got pulled. We ended up going up by 10 runs. Tech made a little bit of a push, but we closed it out, and we get our first championship, winning 10-4 on Friday night. Oh, man, it was so exciting to get a championship. We're always here for championships, so it's awesome.
It definitely was. So I want to give a shout out to the entire team effort. Tegan Kavan, our pitcher, she was unbelievable.
Yes.
And she's so fun to watch. Our hitting was awesome. They were able to get on bases, produce runs, put pressure on the other team's outfielders to be able to get outs, and they were able to use up a lot of the pitchers from the opposing teams all the way throughout their run to the College World Series. That was the most impressive part. Texas Tech did beat Oklahoma, which we wanted us to play Oklahoma, but hey, we were happy. We were going to beat Oklahoma anyways. They weren't the same team as they were in the past. But Mike White, shout out to you. It was his first time as a head coach winning a national championship. They were close last year against Oklahoma, but they able to prevail this year. What do you think was the biggest reason that they were able to make such an improvement from last year to be able to take that next step that hopefully Sark and company are taking notes on?
Yeah, I think it's part of it is just we've been there so often. I think that was our 8th appearance. A lot of those are with Mike White, who also I think made an appearance or 2 with Oregon. Like you said, just been knocking on the door, losing Oklahoma. We made the finals twice in the last 4 years. I think 2023, 2021, very recently. And then, of course, got swept by Oklahoma, who was on a tear. We did beat Oklahoma on the run. I think it was just enough experience, battled through the SEC this year. And it's all about Tegan Kavan. And then Morgan, our other pitcher, who was also a stud as well. Mia Scott, I think she was playing on a torn ACL, ends up hitting a grand slam. So it all came together, the experience. You just wish some of the girls from last year were still on the team. Like Bella Dayton, I think is who I'm thinking of, little second baseman. She was awesome. Unfortunately, she couldn't be there. But yeah, I think it's just, like you said, similar for women's basketball. We've been kind of knocking on the door, Elite Eight, finally cracked the door for the Final Four. So maybe that's the same thing with football. We've gotten to the Final Four in football. Maybe we can crack through it and get through, but totally awesome. And softball is an underrated sport. It's just a lot of fun. It goes a lot faster than baseball.
Oh, I usually don't watch a lot of baseball. Softball was fun, and I love the
It
energy. The
is.
crowd was getting
Right.
into it. There's old Big 12 rivalry. Texas Tech fans were,
Yeah.
I don't think they expected to get that far, so they were all riled up.
Right. Right.
And Oklahoma, seeing their fans just completely sulked after they lost, that was awesome to see. Anytime
Yeah.
Oklahoma come out of the sport, it's a good day to
Oh,
be a Longhorn. And
yeah.
they're from what I've read, they're bringing a lot of the same team back. Tegan Cavan's only a sophomore. I don't know what year. Yeah, I don't know what year Morgan is, but I think she's coming back. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that. But hey, Mike White will be maybe hosting multiple of these trophies in the year.
Woo-hoo!
And Oklahoma.
They say the hardest one is the first one. So once you get that first one, it's a little bit easier. Pressure's off. You brought a chip to Austin, light the tower. So yeah, I don't know. I'm pumped. That's the cool thing about women's sports that we've talked about is that unfortunately for them, there's not as much of a professional angle. So the girls have to stay for 4 years. So we get Tegan for 4 years. There's girls on the women's team who has to stay for 4 years. So that's a cool part of women's sports that we don't always get for the men's.
And I feel like the longer they stay, the more connected they are to the fan base, and the
Oh,
more
yeah.
people cheer them on. Rather than basketball is the only sport. We love Trey Johnson. Don't get me wrong, but we're only going to see him in a Longhorn uniform for 1 year. And
Right. Exactly.
so
6
Tegan
months.
Cavan, yeah, she had a beast of a freshman year, taking that. They said she was even better as a sophomore. Morgan was amazing. And we're starting to rack up some championships. Volleyball won a championship a couple years ago. Softball,
Yep.
baseball had a really good season. Schloss is going to win a championship in baseball the next couple of years. They just ran into a buzzsaw at UTSA, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and Texas basketball with Sean Miller is getting some momentum. Soccer is always
Yeah.
good. Swimming and diving does work. We're basically the Alabama swimming and diving under Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And then football. So Texas sports, Cristo Conte, we're on the right track. So again, congratulations to the softball team. We want to give you props and shout out on a wonderful season and winning the national championship. Well, now let's move on to some football topics. So a recent ranking came out just SEC teams, the odds to make the college football playoff. Texas at 84%, Georgia at 79%, the Crimson Tide of Alabama at 66, Tennessee at 38.5, A&M at 34.5. So my question is to you, only 3 teams made the college football playoff from the SEC last year, Texas, Tennessee, and Georgia. Will we see more teams make it this year, and who will they be?
I don't think it's more than 3, right? Because you said Texas, Georgia, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be a different 3. My line of thinking is going to be I feel very confident about Texas making it. I feel very confident about Georgia making it. I don't think Tennessee makes it back-to-back years. I would slip Alabama into that mix. And then it gets really interesting because last year we could have seen a 4th team. Ole Miss, really messed it up for themselves at the end of the year. They could have gotten in. Florida, maybe they could get in this year, winning some extra games. I know you're big on LSU. Does LSU get in? I don't trust Oklahoma and A&M. I don't trust Tennessee. South Carolina, they're kind of in that same boat to me as the LSU Ole Miss. Like, they could get in. Auburn, I don't trust completely quite yet. I know everyone loves John Mateer, but we just need to see it in the SEC first. So I'm going to say it's the same amount of teams. I'm just going to replace Alabama with Tennessee. And they had a late push too. They fell apart really at the end. A&M fell apart at the end. So there could have been more teams, like 4 teams probably should have gotten in, but I'll stay with 3 for now. Tennessee's out. Nico, too big of a loss. Joey Aguilar will be fine, but not good enough. Alabama will be good enough to get in. Texas and Georgia are still the cream of the crop of the SEC.
I agree with you on that. So, yes, I think Tennessee is going to take a step back, even though they have some decent wide receivers. But how are they going to replace Dylan Sampson, who was basically their bell cow last year? And Tennessee's defense is going to be good this year, but let's see if they can get the offensive, explosiveness that they had at times last year, but also stalled out. So I'm taking Tennessee out. Ole Miss would have made it if they hadn't lost to Kentucky at home and then they lost to Florida on the road when they had that game there and they lost. They missed that opportunity. Those of you that watch previous episodes know that I like LSU, so I'm gonna go with Texas for sure as a lock, Georgia as a lock, and then LSU 3, and then Alabama 4. I just have to put Alabama in there. I
I
like
got
their
that.
schedule. They do play at Georgia, but again, Alabama, even if they lose that game, they still have opportunities to be able to get quality wins on their schedule. They have to go at South Carolina this year. That's going to be a difficult game, but
Ooh.
I feel like they can get that game. And then they have some decent non-conference games that they play. And let's just see how Ty Simpson steps up and who is going to be replaced, who is going to be the second wide receiver after Ryan Williams, because he's going to get bracketed coverage and safety help over him. So how good is their running game? How good is their defense as well? So right now I'm going to go Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Again, I hate to say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if A&M makes a run this year. They were very close making it to the SEC championship game last year. If they had beat Texas in College Station, they would have played Georgia for the SEC championship game. So A&M has a chance, but let's see if what's his name, Marcel Reed, I think is his name. If he
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
take the next step. They lost a lot of production on defense as well, and that's what kept them a lot of those games. So let's see.
Yeah.
But right now, I think my four teams that I can say comfortably are Texas, Georgia, LSU, and Alabama. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about LSU?
I I like him. And again, like you said, if we've listened on previous episodes, I'm a little higher in Alabama than you are. You're a little higher in LSU than I am. So I can see it a scenario where they get in for sure. That would be my fourth team. As far as tiers, we've talked about this. I got Texas and UG at tier 1. Tier 2 alone would be Alabama. Tier 3 would be LSU, and maybe someone else can join them. Right now, that's how I see it. So, yes, if there's a fourth SEC team, I would be shocked if it's on LSU. They should get in. They should be there. If you're Brian Kelly, you have to get in at this point. Seeing how well your predecessor at Notre Dame has done can't hurt you or can't be good for your stock at LSU. So he's got to get in. If I had to pick a fourth team, it would be one of the Tigers. A team that's interesting to me that I brought up before that I could see make a push, had a argument last year, is the Gamecocks, just because they were right on the precipice last year. They beat Clemson. They had the argument of, hey, we beat Clemson and Clemson's in. Obviously, Clemson was the ACC champ, so that was different. But they play OU. Like, they could certainly make an argument for themselves to get in if things broke the right way. But I do agree. Those would be my top four: Texas, Georgia, Bama, and LSU.
So I'm looking at the Gamecocks schedule right now, and they have a very favorable SEC schedule this year. They do have to go at Missouri, but that's a winnable game because Missouri lost so much.
Yeah.
So they play at LSU. I'm probably going to chalk that up as a loss. I don't think they can win it's just hard to win at Baton Rouge. Alabama, like I said earlier, comes to their place, so that might be a game to see who. That might be like a pseudo who gets into the playoff game. Alabama at South Carolina midway through the season, because that's going to really help them. They play at home against Clemson this year, so they can be 10-2, and if South Carolina is 10-2, they're going to get in the playoffs because they're the SEC team. Lenore Sellers, I think he'll be in the Heisman running. Maybe let's just say top 5. Dylan Stewart, explosive edge. They have star power, so I may not be surprised if it's 5 SEC teams in like this year, because I think that the SEC and Big Ten are going to dominate this year more than ever. And then only one out of those other ACC, Big 12, and then Power 5, only one of those teams is going to get into the playoffs. And you're going to see more of an SEC Big Ten dominant playoff this year. And last year, the SEC beat each other up. That's why there was only 3 SEC teams that made it. But this year, I think they're, like Nick said it right. I think there's a little bit more tiers and a little bit more levels between the SEC teams. That let's see what's going to happen. It's going to be very interesting to see. So now we're going to talk about a Longhorn specific topic. So we are in the off season. So me and Nick are big on Longhorn history and celebrating the players that came before us because they laid the foundation for this year's team, and our last championship, so it was a little while ago, but hopefully we're on the right track, to get back there. But we have an interesting ranking that we saw. So UT is known as running back U. So the game that we're going to play, I'm going to put Nick on the hot seat first, but rank these UT running backs 1 to 6. So let me just spell out the running backs before I get to Nick. So Ricky Williams, Cedric Benson, Jamal Charles, Earl Campbell, Bijan Robinson, and Deontay Foreman. It's a very tough exercise, but
Wow.
Nick, let's see you take a stab at this. 1 through 6, go for it.
Wow. It's a good problem to have, right? When you have so many talented running backs. Man, just going through my mind right here. I'm going easy for me. 1, 2. You can make an argument for 2. But to me, this is pretty obvious. I'm going Earl Campbell, number 1. I think he's the GOAT. Look at that helmet. I mean, what a freaking badass. He's mean. Earl Campbell's the number 1. Ricky Williams is 2. He's got the Heisman. The most recent Heisman. This is where it gets tough. I'm throwing Deontay Foreman 6.
Wow.
I feel pretty confident about that. Yeah, I am. This is where I get really messed up here. Okay, I'm gonna go Earl Campbell 1, Ricky Williams 2, Jamal Charles 3, Bijan 4, Cedric Benson, rest in peace, 5, Deontay Foreman 6. The argument I had with myself, I feel pretty confident about Benson and Foreman being 5 and 6. My debate in my head was between 3 and 4 with Jamal and Bijan. Jamal was just freaking electric, man. He was freaking electric. He was the wheels, man. But I feel very, very comfortable. I can't imagine your 1 and 2 is much different than mine with Earl Campbell. Earl freaking Campbell, who also won a Heisman, right? Didn't they both win Heisman?
He did. 1977.
Ricky broke the rushing record against A&M. I mean, look at those jerseys. Freaking sweet. Bijan, maybe the best all-around back if you include the receiving current NFL player, Deontay Foreman. But no, I'm locking in. Campbell 1, Williams 2, Jamal 3, Robinson 4, Benson 5, Foreman 6. That's tough.
It is really tough. So that's a great list. That's a great ranking. So yeah, our first 2 are the same. Number 1, Earl Campbell, GOAT. Number 2, Ricky Williams. I put Jamal Charles at 3.
Okay, we agree.
Cedric Benson at 4.
Okay.
Bijan Robinson at 5. Even though Bijan Robinson could make a case for number 3 behind Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles.
I know.
He was part of the national championship team, if I remember, right? Was he part of
You're right. You're right. I'm pretty sure you're right. Yes.
But he wasn't the number 1 guy on that team. And if you switch them and you put Bijan Robinson on that national championship team, and Bijan Robinson helped, nothing against Jamal Charles. He's an electric performer. I just thought he had a little bit better of an NFL career than college career, Jamal Charles, even though he had a wonderful college career. Not putting any shade. 100%. You look at Bijan Robinson. He came in at 2020, during the Herman time, and he was able to elevate this Texas team, and he put up a lot of big numbers and won us a lot of big games. He could make the argument for being ahead of Cedric Benson, even though Cedric Benson was a really fun player to watch. He was just a power guy that could just run through you. He had the heart of a champion. He was a prototypical Texas player that bled for his teammates, bled for the University of Texas. Rest in peace. He was gone from us too soon, Cedric Benson. He won the Doak Walker Award too. Cedric Benson did as well. So I would put right now Jamal Charles at 3, Cedric Benson 4, Bijan Robinson 5, even though you can make the argument he could be 3 or 4. And I hate to do this because Deontay Foreman had 2,000 yards that one season in 2017. I have to put him at number 6.
I mean, Bijan Robinson might be the most talented out of all the guys. And that's saying a lot because Earl Campbell is a Hall of Famer. So, like, you have him, You have Ricky, who had a great NFL career. Bijan can just do so many things. He was also, I give him and Foreman a lot of love because they were in an era where our football wasn't great. With Bijan's case, we were okay. Like we were kind of coming up. Deontay was in a very low era of Texas football. Not his fault, obviously. He was killing it. And, he had Sam Ellinger, I believe, as his quarterback. Jamal with VY, speed. And he was on the Chiefs. But he's known for his NFL career, right? But, of course, we'll always claim Jamal Charles. Ricky, I mean, look at those pads on Ricky. Look at the pads on Campbell, right? I mean, unreal. You just think powerful, elusiveness. You think power with Benson. I just love Bijan because he's got the shiftiness. He's got the power. Bijan could really do it all. But he's got, I mean, and for him to be that low on that list is crazy. If you take into account of like style, pairing him up with Vince Young, pairing up with Colt McCoy, pairing him up with Chris Sims, like whoever, how much does his stock rise? Pairing him with Arch Manning, how much does that change? Pairing Jamal Charles with Arch Manning. So we love all these guys. All these guys were Texas guys through and through. But it's got to be Campbell 1. There's no debate about that. And Ricky's got to be 2. Ricky would damn near be 1 on most schools, but Earl, I mean, you can't beat Earl.
You can't beat Earl. He won the Heisman the first year for the running backs, 1977.
And look at that helmet, man. That's unreal.
Unbelievable. I wish I was alive. I watched the highlights. I wish I was alive just to see Earl Campbell. He set the stone for running back you. And he's still, even though he's the oldest out of this group, anytime you see him in Austin, Texas or at the stadium, the crowd just erupts. Real Longhorns fans know the impact Earl Campbell had on this Texas Longhorns football program. So him, Ricky Williams, I want to give a shout out. He made Texas a cool school, because at the time in Texas, A&M was known as the cool school, the school that all the recruits wanted to go to. But Ricky Williams had just that vibe about him, that aura about him, that people saw his production go on with his personality, and that's what made recruits at the time want to even come to Texas even more. So that's how we got the talent to be able to lead up to the 2005 national championship. And then Jamal Charles, he was really amazing. I'm looking it up right here. He's 6th on UT's single season list in rushing. That one year he had 1,619 yards, 18 touchdowns on that year. So he's still a beast. So you have to put him at 3 just for production. But you could maybe change Benson and Robinson, Bijan Robinson, but I think I would give the nod to Benson because he was very impactful. He was a power back. He can get those tough yards. He was a team energizer. Bijan Robinson won us a lot of games that we had no business winning at that time just because his talent is ridiculous. So was Deontay Foreman. He had Charlie Strong as coach. He had Charlie Strong as coach.
Right.
Exactly. We won 5-7 that year, but I don't think without Deontay Foreman going crazy, we may have won like 3 games.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to give him the shout. And he won the Doak Award that year, Deontay Foreman. So again, a lot of great running backs from at UT. And let's see now as more running backs start getting into this picture. But we have a very prestigious legacy for running backs at the University of Texas. So now moving on from running backs. So now let's talk about wide receivers. So this is a game we're going to play. Which era of Texas wide receivers would you take? So the 2000s, it was 2000. It was Quan Cosby, Jackson Shipley, Roy Williams. 2010s was Colin Johnson, Devin Duvernay, Lil Jordan Humphrey. 2020s. Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Matthew Golden. Which era would you take?
I'm gonna do a start bench cut here. Can I do that?
Okay.
I'm gonna start with the 2020s. I think that's the most lethal with AD Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Matthew Golden. I can do anything to you if I have those 3. A lot of speed. I can go over the middle with you. I'm great in the red zone. I could do anything pitch related. That would be my start. I think that's those are the three best. And I think you can see that with what A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy have done in the NFL and with Matthew Golden being a first-round pick. This is not even including Isaiah Bond, by the way, who,
right.
also really good. So I will start with the 2020s. My bench would be the 2000s. A lot of great college receivers, which is mainly what we're talking about. Shipley, Roy Williams, great NFL career. And then Mr. Cosby. So you talk about clutch, big game performances. You cannot do much better than those three up there. They won probably a lot more games than anyone else on this list. But if you go as far as NFL production, you take it that much further as far as talent. I got this 2020 group above them. And then my cut group, this was like a tough era for us. Little Jordan Humphrey, Colin Simmons. I like Colin Simmons. They'd be my cut group out of the three. Still really good. Weren't as in many big games. Not their fault, of course. But if you think about actual difference makers on the field, my number one group would be this A.D. Mitchell, Worthy, and Matthew Golden. A lot of great Texas receivers. We got more coming up throughout the ranks, but this 2020 group is my number one.
Okay, no, I can't fight you on that, even though I slightly disagree. I would pick the 2000s group as my number one. Roy Williams, 7th overall pick. Jackson Shipley, I think he's like the all-time leading player in school in receptions and touchdowns.
Yes.
Then Quan Cosby, another really good player that just got touchdowns. I just remember that Ohio State game where he was unstoppable in that game. So I'm going to go that because they did win a championship in that era. So I also have to lean slightly towards them in that respect.
Fair,
but it's very close. It's very minuscule between them and the 2020s because they were very close to winning a championship. But I just think that, the 2020 receivers are more talented than the 2000 receivers, in my opinion. Probably minus Roy Williams, but I just think that the 2000 receivers just had a little bit more production and they performed well in big games and they led us to national championships. So that's why I would give the nod to them. But 2020, they were a beast, and a lot of them were higher draft picks. We have 2 first-round picks in the 2020s and an early second-round pick in Adonai Mitchell. So you have to give them props in that regard. But the 2010 wide receivers, they were really good. So I was in college. I got to see all 3 players, actually. I was in college at UT during that time. Colin Johnson, that first time we played against USC, it was 2017 at the Coliseum. He was unguardable in that game. Sam Ehlinger was a true freshman. He was amazing.
Remember that game? Yeah.
And we almost won that game too.
Should have won. I was gonna say should have won.
USC kicked a last-minute field goal to win that game, but we were very close to winning. I believe that was Sam Darnold's USC team. I believe that was.
It was.
So they had a really good team that year, USC. We ended up beating them the next year in Austin, but we were very close to getting the victory in LA. Devin Duvernay, unfortunately, we didn't use him until his senior year of senior year of college, which didn't make any sense because he was a speedster. We put him in the slot. He had an amazing senior season, and he's the biggest. What could have been if we would have utilized his skill set earlier in his college career rather than waiting until his senior year of college? He's a really good player. I believe he's still with the Ravens in the NFL.
Yeah.
So he's still getting paychecks. Lil Jordan Humphrey. He didn't have the best college career, but he had some big moments in college.
He was awesome. He was awesome.
Big catches, big run after catch player because he was so big. You would just throw him the jump ball. He would high point it. We didn't get the ball to him as much as we should have. That was the Shane Buechele early Sam Ehlinger times.
Yes.
So those are some rough. Yeah, it was rough, because Shane Buechele, we thought he was going to be the next quarterback, the next great quarterback, but he ended up being usurped by Sam Ehlinger, and him and Sam Ehlinger only didn't get on the same wavelength as they should have. But Lil Jordan Humphrey is still collecting them checks in the NFL. He's with the Denver Broncos now. He's playing, so he's still, a good NFL player. So 2010s, I just want to give a shout out to because they were talented wide receivers. We just didn't win a lot. What are your closing thoughts in this debate, Nick, about these wide receivers?
Well, my one thought would be I wish the 2020 group, I wish we could have seen play together, all of them. because obviously we had AD and Worthy play together, the year prior, but Golden wasn't there yet. So if we had all three with Golden, what does that look like? We're kind of becoming transfer wide receiver U because Worthy's homemade, but Matthew Golden came from Houston, and AD, where did AD come from?
He came
Georgia.
from Georgia.
Georgia. Yeah, he came from Georgia. So it'd be kind of sick. I mean, have those three speedsters and weapons all around you guys. That would be my one thing. My other thing is, man, do I miss the 2000s football when it was like that was the era that I missed because 2010s was great. It was fun, but it's not the same as Jordan Shipley taking it to the house against OU to take the lead or to close the lead when we were down big in a national championship year, or Quan Cosby scoring late against Ohio State to win the game. Roy Williams, I mean, yeah, it's hard not to put them number one. But hopefully we can talk about, maybe a 2025 list that's really good. The 2030s list. Maybe that'll be even better, but we'll see. And I think my last thing I say is the 2010 list is a lot better than it seems. There was just so much inconsistency with head coaching, quarterback play, running back play at times. So these guys should be elevated even higher if they're on one of those other teams. But yeah, a lot to look forward to. There could be a guy that we might be adding into this list very, very soon.
I think there's some potential because we got 3 5-star wide receivers: French, McCutcheon, Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, and then we have Parker Livingstone, who's going to be an absolute beast. Yeah, Wingo this year. So there's some guys. I already said in me and Nick have talked about. We think if Wingo has the next 2 great years, he could be maybe on this list of all-time great Texas wide receivers.
I agree. If you go, who's the best wide receiver at Texas talent? Do you say Roy Williams?
Yes, actually, that was my next. You must have read my mind. On this list right now, I would put Roy Williams as the number 1 receiver.
Okay, I have 2 things to say about that. If you just go talent, freak show, Roy Williams easily. If you go, and maybe I'm changing my pick just by saying this. If you go, who feels like Texas one wide receiver, it just feels like Jordan Shipley. There was a brother too, but Jordan Shipley. Just you said he's the receiving yards was I don't know. He just feels like wide receiver 1, but Roy Williams is the more talented guy, if that makes sense.
No, he
just
did.
Feels more like Texas.
He did. So if you want to talk about just college, actually, we should divide it into 2 sections. Just college, it is Jordan Shipley. And if I said Jackson earlier, I apologize. Thank you for saying
confusing.
That. It is
Jackson did play at Texas, but with Case McCoy. It's very confusing.
Exactly. So Jordan Shipley would be the number 1 college player with production on this list.
I agree.
But if you want to combine college and NFL, Roy Williams will be number 1 on this list.
I agree with that.
Even though, in my opinion, Matthew Golden could challenge Roy Williams if he has. Yeah, he could challenge Roy Williams. And I was blanking out a little earlier. The 3rd 5-star wide receiver I wanted to get mentioned to was Khalil Lockett. So it's Jamie French, Khalil Lockett, and McCutcheon on campus, and Ryan Wingo. And we think the current player on campus that has the best chance to make this list, or at least be top 3 to 5, is Ryan Wingo. What does he need to do in his college career? Because most likely he's only going to be on the 40 acres for 2 more years. What does he need to do to get on this list?
Same thing that I think Matthew Golden actually did a really good job of doing. Big time catches in big time moments. We lost to Georgia twice, but not because of Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden balled out in the SEC championship game. Matthew Golden balled out until he got hurt against Ohio State. So people remember big catches. You can't control when the ball comes to you, but you can control how open you are. You can control how often what you do with the ball when you get the ball. So that is something that he can do. The further that we go because of him, because he will be option A, the best. Because if we, win a national championship, but he doesn't produce much, he gets hurt, 1 catch for 8 yards, whatever, he's not going to be considered a Texas great. If we win a national championship and there's a 3rd down play, catches it to win the national championship, yeah, he's always getting remembered. Just like Quan Cosby in that big game against Ohio State where he dives into the end zone in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe, with Colt McCoy. So, like, same kind of thing. A.D. Mitchell. Remember when A.D. Mitchell was yelling at Quinn, give me the freaking ball, give me the ball. Next play, he scores a touchdown against Washington.
And remember
Matthew
that big
Golden.
catch against TCU earlier that year when it looked like we were in trouble?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Matthew Golden, okay? The biggest play in the last 10 years. Against Arizona State, 4th and 13. Who blesses the ball with his hands is Matthew Golden. So if you're going to be a big name guy, you got to come up in big moments. The biggest moment that comes up to me for Jordan Shipley is it's not even a catch. It's a kickoff return against Oklahoma. I think we're down 14-0 or 14-3, something like that, early, getting smacked around. Took away all the momentum, ended up winning a thriller. So, yeah, he's got to win. He's got to have a big catch in the national championship. Big catch in the rivalry game. He's more than capable of doing it, and he's going to get a lot of opportunities this year. So I'm pumped. You got me fired up in June. Ooh.
Hey, that's what we're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're trying to get you.
Oh, man, I'm ready to go.
So two goals. We try to get this offseason. We're trying to get everybody to. We want to pay homage to the old players, players that came before us. But then we're also trying to see how the new players can compare to the old players. And I think Wingo, you said it perfectly when you said he needs to have a big moment. You nailed that. He needs to do a couple of other things, in my opinion. He needs to be a first-round draft pick. If he does, he could be elevated on this list because I think he has a great chance.
Matthew Golden.
Exactly, and was worthy too, worthy as well. And Roy Williams was 7th overall. He got picked number 7 overall. So he needs to win the Biletnikoff Award for the best wide receiver in the country. Even though he has some very stiff competition, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman. He has some tough competition, but he can do it. He can do it because me and Nick think that he's just as talented as those guys. He just didn't get the shine because he was behind those 2 other studs. Also, if we win a national championship and he's the reason why he's a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, he has a chance. They said he's developing really well this spring, and I think that we brought in some really good players, but the focus is going to be on Ryan Wingo. He has the skills. He can high point the ball. He has good hands. He could run after the catch. He's big, 6'2" player. He can block. He has all the skills to be on this list. And let's see, maybe in the 2030s, like Nick said, Mr. Wingo will appear. So we want to give it. We're hoping for a big season from Ryan Wingo. All right, so the last topic of today is, so this is a fun topic, the 15 most iconic college football helmets of all time. So Ohio State is 1, Michigan is 2, Alabama's 3, LSU's 4, Notre Dame's 5, Penn State is 6, Texas 7. Should Texas be at number 7 or should they be higher, the Longhorn?
We should be number 1. All right, it's the best logo in sports. It's iconic. It's a white helmet, which is beautiful. And you slap on the horns on the side. That's easily number 1. Obviously, I'm a little biased, so I will have them in the top 5. Just being, I don't know how Texas is not in the top 5, but I will give you my other teams that belong in that list. Penn State is just a white helmet. I'm sorry, that is not that great to me. It's just a white helmet. I get it. That's kind of their thing. They don't do nameplates either. That's fine. I don't think that's better than Texas. It's basically the same thing as Texas, but we added something to it. So no particular order. Notre Dame in the top 5.
Yep.
Yes, it's just a plain helmet, but it's freaking gold. Okay. Speaks enough for itself. Number 1. Bama. I like that one.
Yeah.
I would have to go. Hold on. So Notre Dame, Texas, USC. I love the Trojan in there. That's awesome.
It's
Florida
sick.
State. I like the Seminole. This is where it gets tricky. I would probably go Alabama. I'll probably go Alabama. So, I left out Michigan and Ohio State. I feel good about that. Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas, USC, Florida State. I think that's right. And Michigan, It's cool, but it'd be right outside my top 5. I thought a lot about putting Georgia in the top 5 because they have that iconic G, that bright red. I thought about Miami, but I think Miami is more known for this, and that doesn't always mean the helmet. So if you're going just strictly off the helmet, I think it's Alabama, Texas, the Fighting Irish, the Seminoles, and the Trojans. I think, and Trojans might be damn near 1. I mean, I think Texas and USC would be number 1 and number 2, Florida State 3. I think I just said it for you right there. That's my top 3. Texas, Trojans, Florida State. Those are my top 3 helmets.
Okay, so we mostly agree. So Notre Dame's my number 1.
Yeah, Texas that's iconic. Yeah, it's iconic.
Texas is 2. I would put Ohio State as 3. I do not like the Michigan helmet. I just don't like the color. Michigan helmet's not for me. So I said Ohio State's 3. LSU is 4 because the tiger on the helmet.
Yeah.
I would have put Florida in the top 5 if they actually had the gator on the helmet, because that's kind of scary, a gator, but they don't have the gator on the helmet. What are we doing here?
Right. Missed opportunity.
Then USC with the Trojan is at number 5. I do like the Alabama, the red. It's a dark red, so it's a sick color. I like dark red. It's a good color.
Yeah.
I do not like the Georgia. Just the G. I think it's kind of just like I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah.
Fair,
I like the Seminole, the nose, because it has the spear. Then it has on the helmet, and it's kind of a goldish like Notre Dame, but a little bit of a lighter gold. So I like that.
Right.
If I want to give a shout out, I kind of like the Nebraska with the N, just the red N. Nebraska, it's subtle, but kind of sick. I just don't like in this Michigan and Georgia in the top 10. Those are the schools the helmets that just don't impress me. They're just kind of there. They're kind of plain a little bit, But I just wish, like I said, the Florida Gator helmet actually had the Gators on it. Just like look at the Tigers, the LSU Tigers helmet. But yeah, I would put Notre Dame 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, LSU 4, and then the Trojans at 5.
My question for you is, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
I'll just say, do you think Michigan and Georgia, some of these teams are in here just because they're iconic franchises or colleges, or just because the helmet is cool? Because I actually like the Alabama helmet because it's got the 32, or the number, right? That's a cool indication that, I'm playing for Alabama. Obviously, I'm the Longhorns. But do you think in your eyes that Michigan and Georgia is in the top 10 because it's Michigan and Georgia? If it was, some smaller school or something like that, they wouldn't be even close to the top 10? Is that your thinking?
I agree with that. Yes, I just think there's nothing special about Michigan's helmet. Their brand is iconic. Anywhere you go around the world. But I don't think Georgia's brand is on the same
Not the
level
same as Michigan. No.
But I think Notre Dame and Texas, if you're talking about the top 2 brands in college football, it has to be those 2 teams and the schools. Notre Dame's a really hard school to get into. They're known for touchdown Jesus. It's a very iconic thing.
I mean, how cool is that?
It's so cool. It's so cool. I'm not even a huge Notre Dame a program fan, but I have to respect that about them. I like that about them. The Longhorn, you can go anywhere in the world. If you do this, they'll know what it means. Fans don't want to admit this. The A&M fans and Oklahoma fans will never admit this, but anywhere you go, everybody knows the Longhorns and everybody wants to be the Texas Longhorns. Okay.
What's this? What does this mean? Don't they do this?
Exactly.
What does that even mean?
It's weird. And A&M just has weird traditions. They're Yell Boys, the Midnight Yell. It's just weird and cringy, but
they're
that's
weird.
A topic for another
Very
day.
cringy. Yes.
It's very cultish, but hey, and then just the city of Austin. Austin is one of the most iconic cities in the United States of America. Everybody's moving to Austin. Everybody wants to be associated with Austin, with the they call it the Silicon Hills and the tech startups that they have there. And so I think, but Texas and Notre Dame are the top 2. This was a fun little thing that we wanted to see, and in a future episode, we're going to be talking about uniforms. So that's going to be a different debate than this. So stay tuned for that. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. And be sure to follow us on our social media channels at Touchdown_Texas. we had some really fun summer plans that are, for the show that we were going to announce very soon within the next few episodes that me and Nick are just finalizing some of the details on. We're going to be sharing them on the show. Be sure to stay tuned here for all your off-season content. Media days are coming up in about a month, so that's coming up, and then we'll talk more about the Longhorns and the rest of the teams in college football. We're only like 12 Saturdays away, so we're getting a lot closer to college football. But until then, everybody, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.